today I want to show you how to prune your basil plants to get a bushier plant. I'm going to insert a picture of what these looked like when I planted them right here. Now these were tiny little gangly things, and I've been pruning them heavily to get them to become this bushy, and it's actually really easy to do. So what you're going to do, I'm going to show you on the African basil first. This is a Thai basil. On the African basil, so you want to keep your blooms trimmed off of your basil because you'll get a sweeter leaf. However, I find that with African basil and Thai basil that it doesn't really affect the leaves if they go to flower as far as bitterness goes. Some people say if you let them bloom or go to seed that the leaves get really bitter, but I haven't found that to be true with either of these. So that's why I grow these two varieties. But I'm going to show you how to prune these to get them to bush out. So when I first planted this was, I think it was a 2-stem tiny plant, and I just kept pruning it. So where you're going to prune it is you're going to prune it where you see 2 starter leaves coming out. So I could prune this all the way down here, and then these 2 leaves or leaf sections will turn into new branches. Or I could even go all the way down here and trim it down to this section of leaves, and those will branch off and give me a bushier plant at the base, which is probably a better idea than going up this high. But since this plant is so mature, I'm just going to go ahead and trim it off at this first section here. So keep in mind, if you're going to propagate this now, because you could turn this into a whole new plant, you're going to have to cut off this little end piece here because it won't root from this piece. It'll root from wherever your leaf sections are, because that's where all the growth hormone is. So I tend to trim them off right there, and then you're going to trim off these leaves just like this. And then you could stick that into a cup of water and this will root out, or you could stick it into some soil. But at first I like to stick them in water until they start to get little root beds, and then I'll plant them in soil. Another thing you want to do is if it does have a flower, you're going to trim that off also. So now this section here is going to branch off, and then this section here is going to branch off, and I'm going to start off with a nice new bushy plant. So the same thing goes for your your Thai basil. You're going to go down, and I like to prune down to the lowest section of leaves because I want it to get really bushy lower down. So I'm going to trim off right here. You can see I've got this section. Those are going to be new branches. Trim there, and then you can propagate this piece too, but you're going to want to cut off the flower bed. And again, you want to trim off those lower leaves because this is where the plant is going to root. And this one probably isn't a very good one since I trimmed it up to the top, but this will grow. It'll still root, and you can grow a new plant out of that. So if you want to go lower down onto the stem, you can see here I could even cut down to here, and it'll branch off down lower if I wanted them to, which is probably a good idea for this one. So I can get a new plant out of this piece here. So again, I'm going to trim up right about here. And you could see where my last trim was. See where my last trim was? And then those leaves that were there branched out like this. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. And we're going to trim all these lower leaves off. Just like this. And I can even go as far as trimming that off. And then that will be where my root point is if I stuck that into some water to propagate. So that'll give me a whole nother basil plant. So I'm going to go ahead and finish pruning the rest of these plants, and we'll speed up the video so you can watch.
Cause I'm lost in your love.
Alright, so now you can see how much I've pruned off. I've pruned off all of the buds, and I took probably about a third off of each plant. And we'll do an update video in a couple of weeks when this is fleshed out again, so you can see how much it grows and how quickly it grows, because they do grow really fast, especially the African basil. And I just noticed that my oregano here, my Italian oregano, is going to bloom, so I'm just going to go ahead and prune this down too. And I just pruned this about a week ago. So I'm just going to prune this down. You can prune these down as far as you want. Again, these will branch off from those little sets of leaves. I'm not going too far down on mine because this isn't as fast of a grower as the basil is, but it's pretty quick. So again, I just prune down until I see a whole nother section of leaves. I just make sure I trim right up to that section so we don't have a funky stick hanging out. And I'm just taking off all of the little buds that I see, if there are any. So see, these are flowers. So I'm taking those off because I don't want this to go to seed yet. And that will make this last a lot longer, and it'll make it bushier also. Alright guys, that's it for today. We will see you in the next video, and I will make sure to do an update showing you how my propagated cuttings are doing and then how these have fleshed out in a couple weeks.